Hey there, witches! This is ceRES, formerly known as Blue Conure, and welcome to another time-lapse video. So, why did I change my name? Well, that's a good question. See, originally, this name that I now have, ceRES, is what I used before I started studying art in college. But my teachers discouraged the use of it. They told me I should use my actual name. So, I tried that before starting this YouTube channel, and the thing is, I have very little attachment to my last name. I was teased in school relentlessly for it because it was hard to pronounce, and I would get called it instead of my actual name, and I love my actual name and my middle name. However, I do like my initials. And ceRES, in that case, C-E-R-E-S, plays on my real life name of beep beep beep. You'll have to find out my actual name if you go to my other social media. It also plays on the name of one of my favorite Roman goddesses, ceRES. You can find out more about her on Wiki. I mean, that's not why you're here. You're here to watch speed paint gloriousness and to hear me to give you another digital drawing dish, as I'm going to call these. And I'm clapping. Why am I clapping? Alright, so you may have noticed the tagline and clicked this out of curiosity and wondering why I've called this Hoarding and the Blame Game. So, I'm sure everyone has watched A&E, but for those that don't, hoarders literally take collection to the extreme. They will save things that are even considered garbage, things that do not retain value, and there's a story attached to every single item. Like, you could get a pile of great shoes, just a pile of shoes. And a hoarder would be able to pick up each pair of those shoes and tell you the story of where it was bought, why it's worn, and why it's not gotten rid of, even though the shoe is something they wore when they were 5 years old, or their child wore, or their kid wore once and didn't get rid of. They may want to keep it. Hoarding, it's like OCD to the extreme, but instead of having repetitive actions, it's repetitive collecting and the inability to let go of that because the bad thing will happen. But yeah, why am I talking about hoarders in the blame game? I grew up in a hoarder household. That's why. There it is, out in the open. I am the not proud but surviving. I survived it. I survived growing up with a hoarder for a mother. I remember as a kid calling the big pile of junk in the living room that covered the piano and the couch the pile monster. And it's like if it fell and such, be like, the pile monster's after me. And I'm like, this is a tiny little 8-year-old kid saying these kind of things. And yeah, that's messed up. Our cats had to be kept in the bathroom because my mom was paranoid that they would get up in the pile and it would collapse on them and squash them. I thought it was because she was afraid they were going to go to the bathroom somewhere aside their litter box. And now that I'm older, she was worried they were going to get crushed. I mean, the pile was that dense. We weren't allowed to give away any clothes that didn't fit anymore, or toys, or plushies, or anything. We were told that we would want those clothes for our kids, those toys for our kids, and the plushies for our kids. And, you know, as a youngster, you don't realize, what your mom says is what she says. And you don't. Now that I'm an adult, when I have children, they are getting new stuff. They are going to have what's popular if they want it. They're going to have obscure if that's what they want. And they're going to be exposed to every color under the sun, aside from pink and blue. I don't want them growing up with that. And I'm sorry if my voice is a little crackly, like I'm a smoker. I'm not, as you can tell from my other videos. I've been extremely sick, so bear with me. If it gets too much, just let me know, and I'll do this again on another speed paint so you can get non-vocal fry Rebecca. But yeah, everything she kept every VHS. Like, if there was a collector's edition of a VHS we already had, she wouldn't let us give it away or take it to be donated or sell it. We had to have both. And every VHS that recorded off a TV, even if they put the TV show on a VHS or a DVD, she wanted the VHS because of the commercials. She wanted to keep the commercials. Oh my God, this is fucked up. I mean, You can find all those old commercials online at YouTube, but she won't get rid of them. She can't. Because hoarders are trapped in the OCD of acquire, and when they acquire, it feels good for that moment. And if they let go of something or lose something, it's like losing your child. The old play set still sits in our yard, and the playhouse from when I was in kindergarten I used to play in is still in the yard, because my mom said that I would want it for my kids. And no, that thing is old, it's got algae, it's got moss. I'm going to build my kids an amazing tree house, if anything. They are not having that old... I don't hate that playhouse. I hate what it represents. I hate that it represents all the things that my mother kept and all the life experiences I was denied because she couldn't stop keeping. Coats I used to wear to Sunday school from when I was little to my early teens are still there. There are still old coloring books. And with coloring books, if every page was scribbled on except for one, she would not let me get rid of it. She said that I would want to keep it so I could go back and color in these books. And she was telling me this all the way until I was about 13 years old. The coloring books are still there. The crayons that... like little nubs, like maybe even half an inch, she would not let us get rid of. I remember sneaking stuff into the trash and trying to put it in the bottom so I could just get rid of it, because I couldn't use those crayons. I wanted new crayons. I didn't want to keep these old crayons. I wanted new coloring books. I don't want this old coloring book. And I remember her making us dig through the garbage to get that stuff out, and telling us off for trying to get rid of it. It's not much nice stuff that's there. Her hoarding extends to a lot of things. She still has maternity clothes she wore, saying that we would want them when we have children. Well, guess what? My sister's pregnant and she's buying her own maternity clothes because, well, actually, she's not buying maternity clothes because I'm a plush girl and she's just borrowing my clothes for now. Yeah, I need to lose weight. But yeah, there are sewing machines that my mom hasn't opened because she has a plan for it. There are cross-stitch kits because she has a plan for it. She's gonna cross-stitch and hang them up and make the rooms pretty. There's so much yarn to crochet with that the master bedroom's bed is piled high with it. There's a pasta maker that's never been opened. I remember I think I was 10 years old. My mom found it at a flea market. She said, yeah, we'll open it up and we'll try it out. The only time she opened it up was when I was a teenager and moss had gotten into the initial pasta mix it gave you to start off with. That pasta maker is still there, sealed up from the time she resealed it after taking that stuff out and throwing it away. Yeah, my mom's a hoarder, but me and my sister aren't, so why didn't we clean it up? Well, you remember that little tidbit that I just told you about the coloring books and the crayons? No, that went to other stuff too. I couldn't throw out old food that was expired. She had to go through it. How do I know it's bad? What if it's still good? That sell-by date is by the government, and the government don't know everything. I couldn't donate clothes because she was convinced that we would use them for our grandchildren. I couldn't even do my laundry because I was wasting detergent and water to do laundry. I remember being a little elementary school girl and thinking it was normal to wear the same pair of underwear for more than 5 days. And none of this, I go front, I go back, I go inside out and front and back again. No, it's like static. I thought that was normal. And it's probably why I had a slew of urinary tract infections through my youth. And that's another thing. It's not just the things that she was hoarding. It's also the facilities. When we were young, we only got to shower once a week before church. And when I started getting older and realized that I could shower more than once a week and tried, I would get yelled at for wasting water. If I ate any food that there was a plan for, and that was a lot of food that had plans for it, my mom just wouldn't cook. My grandmother taught me the basics about how to cook, and then I taught myself how to cook because my mom would do this very often. And I was hungry. I wanted to eat. And another thing about her hoarding, and every hoarder is different, but there are a lot of things the same. They are so hooked on the acquiring and the story and the memory, and that the object equals the memory, and if the object is gone, so is the memory, that it paralyzes them when it comes to basic hygiene and basic cleanliness. I remember the dishes sitting in the sink so long that they would have bugs in them. I mean, it was normal to rinse out little gnat maggots out of the dishes when she would finally let me and my sister do dishes. We had to get permission to do dishes because if she was planning to cook that day, we would take up the stove because we would have to take them all out of the sink, then rinse them one by one, and then soak them in super hot water with bleach to kill the bugs. But if we covered up the stove and she was planning to cook, it's like, well, I just won't cook that day. And this is to two young girls that we had to stand on a step stool to reach the sink to do the dishes because our mother wouldn't do the dishes and she wouldn't let anyone do the dishes. Trash would pile up in our storage shed with the lawnmower until it got rancid. I mean, as in, you drop the bag and the bag is so pressed and full of rot that it busts open and maggots come out. It's like a horror movie. My mom wasn't a bad mom. She gave us a lot. We always had the newest game system. We got the Tamagotchi when it had its craze. We got the collector's edition of Legends of Zelda when they came out. But I would probably trade all that stuff to have gotten to join Girl Scouts like I wanted to go to sleepovers, to go over to a friend's house to play, to have a birthday party. She wouldn't let us do any of that. And I realize now as an adult that if me and my sister went to the Girl Scouts, we would have the smell. Like I said, hoarders are big on acquiring, but they're so hooked on the acquiring, they don't think about the maintaining. Vacuuming was non-existent. The cat litter boxes would only get changed when there were maggots in them, and clothing piled up, and sometimes my mom would just not do the lawn. She'd do it halfway and leave it in the washer. Heaven forbid you touch the stuff in the washer she's working on, and it would go bad. It would actually get that mildewy attic rot smell. And that smell perpetuates. It gets in your skin, and it gets in your hair, and it gets in your clothes. And if me and my sister had gone to Girl Scouts, or even if just me gone to Girl Scouts, they would have noticed the smell. I didn't know this at the time, but as an adult, you know, all you have to do is look at the context clues, and there it is. Sleepovers, birthday parties, going over to friends' houses, that's a big no too, because if we go and then don't invite them back, what are they going to say? And my mom wouldn't let me invite them back, because if they saw the house, they would tell their parents. And if they told their parents, I couldn't miss what I didn't go to, right? Not so. There were no sleepovers, no birthday parties, no play dates, and very, very few friends. What I do remember, instead of the things she got me, I remember her putting the stuff first. I remember her, when she would punish me, it wouldn't be to punish, she would actually be angry. I remember being taught that if you're honest about what you did wrong, the punishment would be less. And when I tried to follow that teaching, I got punished worse. And I remember her mantra, however you want to say it. If 2 little girls help me clean, we would have a clean house. I've learned that hoarders often blame other circumstances for the hoard. Me and my sister don't live at home anymore. My sister has her house, I have my house, and they're clean. They're tidy, everything has a place. But now that we're not there to blame, and the house is still messy, she's blaming my father. She's blaming my father after years of blaming 2 little girls for not helping, and that's why the house wasn't clean. So, why didn't we tell somebody? I remember when I was old enough to understand that the life I was living wasn't normal. I was in 5th grade. When I confronted my mother and told her the way she was letting me live and the physical punishment she gave wasn't right, that it wasn't to correct, that it was to take her anger out on us, I remember what she said. Go ahead and tell someone, and you know what will happen? They'll come and take you and your sister away, and you won't see each other ever again. I wasn't allowed to go to friends' houses, to have play dates, to go to birthday parties, or anything. My sister was my best friend, my only playmate. I didn't want to lose my sister. And I didn't know the system will usually try to keep siblings together. I was just a little kid. I remember how she would say it was our fault. The house is a mess. She would always blame us. Always. And yet, while we were there, it was only the house, and there was a small barn that was converted into a storage shed, and then there was a shed that had all the gardening and yard work tools, and then a big storage building. Now that we've moved out, my mother has now filled my grandmother's old house. She won't let us take anything out of it, my mother says that things should just rot away in there, and she's filled up 2 storage units that she pays the rent for with her disability check. But I survived it, and the mess and the hoarding that she always blamed me and my sister for, that she always blamed us for, and when my sister moved out, blamed me for, it wasn't my fault.